He's an extremely successful tax and wealth planner and the best-selling author of Financial Success for the Smiling Retiree. Welcome, Navy Dowty.
I was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Actually, a little bit more over the edge than not. It was October 1982. Interest rates were the highest they'd been in well over 100 years. My partner, who I'd been developing real estate with for the last 10 years, had just filed personal bankruptcy. And to add insult to injury, I had a land loan with the bank that was just coming due. And the bank said, well, guess what? When you got that loan, it was 1 over prime, 7%, and we'll keep that same deal with you, but prime rate at that time was 21.5%. So they said, well, we'll do it, we'll just redo it for you, 22.5%. Not only that, because John filed bankruptcy, we can't collect from him, so you not only owe your loans, but you also have to pay us back his. So it was a pretty tough thing to do. Fortunately for me, though, I owed them so much money that I was able to convince them not to destroy my credit. Because I said, if you destroy my credit, I won't be able to pay you. If you don't, then I'll eventually work this out and get it all paid off. And that's exactly what happened. They said, okay, and I was able to get it all done, and the buildings built, and everything paid off. And I remember that day, though, as I was walking out of the bank, their annual report had just come out, and they had a big stack of them. I took one, I'm walking to the car, and I'm paging through it, and I see their balance sheet. And I noticed on the balance sheet, what's the net worth of the bank? Well, it turned out that I owed the bank more than half their net worth. And I remember thinking, that's really crazy. Why would anybody loan me more than half of the net worth of the whole bank? Back then, all my clients for those buildings were doctors and dentists, property owners, business owners, high income, not necessarily high net worth, but high income people. And I would take my kids over to visit my folks over the Christmas holidays, and inevitably I'd get a phone call the day after Christmas, and they'd say, the guy on the other end of the phone would say, hey, I remember you told me about that building. Could we get that done by the end of the year? And so I'd pack everybody up and run back and deeded over a piece of real estate by the end of the year, in the last 5 days of the year. Well, why did they want to do that? Back then, you used to get a half a year's depreciation if you bought a building, and that's what they really wanted. And so I figured out, and when I built these buildings, they were really good buildings. They'd make double walls and everything, and I'd give the doctors all the details and, you know, how I'd put insulation. You could have a marching band in one of the apartments and not hear it in the next one, because I built them really good. And I showed them all this, and they said, oh, that's nice. What about the tax savings? I'd tell them about all the great wood we used and oak trim and everything. They'd say, oh, good. How about the tax savings? So after having people tell me that for 10 years, I had this really great flash of brilliance. Maybe it's the tax savings. And of course, it was the tax savings. Ronald Reagan was president back then, and he always used to say, American taxpayer, somebody that works for the federal government and doesn't have to take a civil service exam. Remember Arnold? Well, and it was the tax savings, because really it's only what you get to keep after taxes that matters. So since then, for my affluent clients, I've always made the tax part of it the focus. Everything revolves around the tax. We have a new tax bill. Simplify tax bill to simplify your taxes, and in many ways it did that. Didn't say make them lower, though. So when we did taxes this year, my tax office, we always project out what it's going to be for the next year if your income and expenses were the same as last year, and you'd be shocked. So here's what I want you to know. They reduced a lot of the expenses that you can take. They simplified it in that regard. Most of you are business owners. You're going to have the possibility of getting a 20% reduction in your taxes if you qualify for it. And what do I mean by that? You could have two people own a business, and one of them gets that 20% reduction, the other one doesn't. So it's got nothing to do with the business income, it's got to do with your personal income. You may want to go to my tax office website, DuPageTaxGroup.com. Just download my report on that, 7 easy ways to save your taxes. Here's an easy way to test whether that's important or not. I've got a simple test. Get a big stack of $100 bills, go in the bathroom, and start ripping them up and flush them. And if you can do that without flinching, then it's not important. For the rest of us, that's kind of important, don't do that. So what you have to do is you have to take action right now. So here's the 3 main rules I want to leave you with. Do it now, do it now, do it right now.